There was this one time that I had someone ask me, an older guy asked me if I played any sports, and I said no, and he was like, you don't play volleyball, you don't play this, you don't do this, and I said no, and he said, oh well, what are other female sports? And I said, what do you mean female sports? And he was like, well, I'm very traditional, and I believe that some sports are just for men.
It was my first grade teacher who was both racist and sexist, and she was particularly hard on the black students, especially the young women. And I remember a little black girl who I was sitting next to who didn't have a sheet of paper that day, and so my reaction was to tear mine in half and give her half. And I just remember, like, she just exploded on us. I was pulled out to the hallway, called my mom to come down to school, and my mom comes down, storming in, and just, I'm so proud of you. It's moments like those where I had that support system. And so as I was growing up, society doesn't want to give young women that same kind of support that I had with my family, and I'm just seeing that kind of disconnect. I wanted to be able to be involved and do something about that.
My home environment was really like empowering to me, and it like kind of grew me into a feminist and an activist for people and people that are discriminated against or different minorities. So I really just thought that the Women's March, not only was it wasn't a protest, it was really a declaration of we are here, we're visible, and we are going to make our voices heard regardless of who's in power and regardless of who makes legislation or what's going on.
And I started working at a juvenile court, and I've been working there since 10th grade. And you get to work with the youth directly that, have committed misdemeanors. So basically that's like lesser crimes. And we get to work with them as their attorneys, and we get to be the jurors. And it's such a great experience to know that you've been able to help someone, meaningfully, and you're able to have an impact on their life. And I think it's just a part of me that I love helping people that, the systems in place don't help enough, and just advocating for them and seeing your impact on them. I think that's really important to me.
I think intersectionality is really about being able to like cross those identities. So you see like, okay, well, I'm disadvantaged in one way because of my race, and maybe I'm disadvantaged in another way because of my gender. Then you also have to kind of recognize that privilege.
People who have privilege have to be involved. So as a white woman, I have privilege. I have privilege of skin. I have privilege of education. I have privilege of socioeconomic status, and I can't ignore that. So one of the things that I do on an everyday basis, I don't think my students have ever noticed this, I am very purposeful with alternating for like calling on Boys and Girls for Gender Equity.
I mean, the work I do with criminal justice, I try to tell people what I do and why it's important to me, because especially in this area, I'd say that it's not really one of the main issues on people's minds, but getting the word out and letting people know why what you're doing is important to so many underprivileged children and adults even. It's really important to get your message heard.
I make sure that I kind of put my money where my mouth is. So for me, that means regular donations to Planned Parenthood. That means physical support for Planned Parenthood, showing up and support if someone needs it. For that, also donations to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Those two are probably like the most important for me.
And I also try to promote things that I think are interesting. So I've been promoting organizations like the ACLU to my friends, and I've also called my senators a couple times to talk about issues that I care about. So I think it's not just the big things, like maybe I don't start a petition that gets 1 million signatures, but maybe I do call my senators, and I know that like they do really take into account what I'm saying. If you care about 100 issues and you can only really champion 2 of them, what do you do about the other 98? You support the people that champion them. So I think really what I got out of the Women's March was that, women, not just women, but, people, we stand together and we support each other, and that's important. That's really important.